So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Friday's edition of our AgEd 360 and 60. Our topic today is potluck, so anything goes. And it is April 17th, 2020. I do want to remind y'all that we are being recorded. And just as a reminder to the purpose of these webinars is for us to share, to talk through ideas, ask questions, share things that worked, things that didn't work, all kinds of stuff like that. So there won't be any specific PD going on, just more of conversation. And we do have some new faces on here, which is awesome. So I'm going to turn it over to the group. Is there anybody who wants to start us off with a question or a share or anything like that?
I have a quick question. So for one of our assignments for student teaching is we go on 2 SAE visits, and I got to go on one in person when I was at school. I visited a student who has a placement at a horse farm, but now for our second one, we're doing it digitally. And so the student that I'm going to help raises dairy calves at her house, and she also needs help with her AET. So I was just wondering what your suggestions would be to have the best use of our time with an SAE visit through like Zoom or FaceTime or however we decide to do it, for figuring out the best way. We're thinking of doing it on Zoom to be able to like share so I could pull her profile up and share my screen and sort of talk through how to make it better. But if you have any suggestions on how to make a Zoom SAE visit worth their time, let me know.
Do you want me to chime in here? Well, if you're doing a dairy project, or if she has dairy animals, it would be awesome, in my opinion, if she could be in the barn with the animals or have pictures. Maybe if you're going to focus on the AET component, have her take pictures of her doing things, and then she can explain those pictures to you as she shares them with you. I always, when I'm going to visit, or when I'm going, and now I'm not visiting kids anymore, obviously, but if somebody calls me or I know is going to contact me, like I have one coming up today at 11. There's a gal having trouble with her American, and we're gonna talk on the phone. I always go into their account ahead of time, and I look through all their stuff. I make notes, and then I try to have a systematic way of going through their AET account so that it makes sense to them. So I'll go into their profile with them first and make sure their profile is all set up. And you're writing, so I'll slow down because I tend to talk fast. So I go into their profile first, and then I make sure all of their agriculture classes are set up, because everything they do in AET has to be done after their first day in ag. Okay? And then once I look at that, then I look at their experience manager. We go into the experience manager and go from left to right in the experience manager, making sure first it's set up correctly. And then you can look at their SAE plan. Hopefully that's completed. And if you read through that ahead of time, then that will give you an idea of the intent of the project. Do they own the animals? So if they have ownership in the animals, it should be an entrepreneurship project. And then you should expect to see some financials. If they don't have ownership of the animal, or they're not paying financials, then it would be an unpaid placement. And then you focus on the experience and the hours that they're spending rather than the financial aspect.
So is that sort of like, I know I emailed you a couple times about a different student who he was like trading unpaid working for the dairy farm to get like almost like rent space from the barn. That's more of like the unpaid placement.
Well, if it's going to be unpaid placement, you don't bring financials into it at all in the conversation in the project at all. There's nothing about financials, because if there's anything about ownership, or them paying something, then that lends to entrepreneurship. And so it has to be in an entrepreneurship project. And entrepreneurship projects, they only get toward degrees and awards. It's the credit, I guess, toward degrees and awards is financial based and not hours based. Where with unpaid placement, it's hours based. So with that said, if I've been doing quite a few videos, and they're in paffa.org/association under the SAE box, and they're short videos on like how to set up a market manager, how to set up a breeding project, how to do your SAE plan. And they're very short, very to the point, and that will be helpful. And actually AET has added in some videos that are the same way throughout now the AET system, which is really nice. So I listened to a couple of them yesterday. Some of the videos that Roger does, the guy at AET, are longer, and you kind of get lost in the, because in all the different stuff. But the ones he's doing now are very to the point. So a kid can click on it, find out what needs to go in that box, and that's it. And so they're much better. And if you need help with a student, send me an email, and then give me their name right away and their chapter, because I can hop right in and look at their stuff and then give you feedback.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Carol, if you'll take a look on the website and make sure that we've uploaded all the ones that you've sent. I just want to make sure, I think I've got them all up, but I want to make sure I didn't miss any.
I'll have to, frankly, Mike, I'm gonna have to go through my emails and my Zoom account and make sure. So I won't do it right now, but I will do it because there's more coming. I haven't made any more yet, but I need to make a couple more. I want to do one on chapter degree, and then Keystone degree, and then American degree is gonna, yeah.
Okay, I think I've got them all posted for you, but I just want to let you double check.
Okay.
Sometimes doing 12 things at one time, something gets lost. So I want to make sure I didn't lose anything. So.
Yeah, and if I send you one and I don't see it posted, I'll just send it to you again, because I know you've got a million emails going on like everybody else. So, and that's fine.
That's great. Thank you.
Bessie,
Yes.
this is Kelly Smith-Wells. Yesterday, I was on the environmental science one in the afternoon with John and a few others, and I had a question that they recommended me bringing to this group.
Okay. Sure.
It's about assessing students' work and trying to make sure that it is their work. If anybody has any ideas, I teach AP Environmental Science as one of my classes, one of the 7 classes I teach. And the College Board has decided to go forward with testing, and they're allowing the kids to test at home virtually for the national exam. And they're going through a very painstaking process of trying to make sure that these kids, I mean, it's basically open resources, but it's timed. So I'm wondering from this group, if anybody has any ideas on assessing student work and how they're assessing and making sure that it is their work.
So if I'm understanding correctly, your College Board isn't sending out the exam, you are?
No, the College Board is doing their own. That was just an example that I used.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what comes to my mind immediately, which I don't know how sustainable it is having the kids record them doing their work. Granted, you have to watch the video, but that would be the what immediately comes to my head, but I'm sure others out there have ideas too. And we have a couple state officers on there that might be able to come up with some technology ideas too, since they're
Well, the College Board is even talking about having some kind of like pupil watching method where they're not going to allow, because the screen's only so big, they're not going to, like, they're going to watch their pupils and where their eyes go, as far as like, are they looking at another computer screen that's to the right? Are they going to a different tab? That kind of, I mean, they've talked about all kinds of technology out there that they're going to try to use, but at the high school level, I mean, we don't have access to that.
Go ahead, Mikey. I think you were going to say something.
So she just mentioned about how like people could watch their screens. When I was in Hack, I graduated from Hack. They had a thing called ProctorU. So when I would take an online exam, I had to video chat with somebody. I had to show them my phone, and they had to watch me put it onto the floor face down. And I had to show them my surroundings. And then while I took the test, they sat there and they watched me, and they could see like if I had other tabs open and what I was doing on my laptop. Honestly, I thought it was pretty creepy from a student standpoint, but it definitely, like, I could definitely see why it would deter students from trying anything, because they can hear you, they can see you, they make you, like, show you putting your phone on the ground. It's pretty intense.
Thank you. Okay.
I know, like, my sisters are in college right now too, and for one of them, she had an exam yesterday, and she had to have a Zoom meeting with the teacher when she was having the test. So they had to put it on mute, but they had to have their screen on, and then the professor just watched all of them when they were taking the test. And then if you're looking for like other ways, one thing I did, like when I would have students submit a Microsoft Word document, if I had questions on there, they would all share that same document and I'll pass, like, hand in the same thing. But I found if I made it as a Google form, it's an extra step for you as the teacher to have to go through and read it that way. But when they have to answer questions, like clicking each page and answering a question in a text box kind of way, I found that they did more of their own work that way versus when they could have just copied and pasted things from online, which they can still copy and paste, but I found better success using the Google form, having them turn in assignments rather than just turn in a Microsoft document with the questions answered.
Okay, thank you.
Are you on Google Classroom, Kelly, or are you on another platform?
Now that's what we have, Google Classroom.
Okay, if students are writing on a Google Doc, you can also check for plagiarism that way if they're answering questions, like if they were studying or practicing for the test. You could, I believe it's like in the comments feature, like when you're going to comment on a Google Doc on a work that student has done, there's a way to check in there how to see if they plagiarized or not. So maybe that's something you could try.
Okay, thank you.
I just found it interesting. I took AP Environmental Science as a high school student. It was probably one of my favorite courses that we did. And so I don't know, I was trying to like rack my brain for some suggestion here. And I don't know that I have any great ones, but I thought I will share what we did as a final project, just because I found it as a pretty rewarding experience. So we were assigned a research paper to do, which at first I was like, oh boy, this is a daunting challenge. It was like 10 pages on an environmentally related topic. But in the end, it was pretty rewarding. I did mine on like chronic wasting disease and white-tailed deer. So we as a student were able to pick the topic that we wanted to pursue. And as I think about, students doing their own work, I guess that can be challenging. But if a student, I don't know, it's going to be difficult for a student if they have a paper to write and sources to find, and then, to put that together. I think it can kind of hold them accountable. I know we were held accountable for that because our papers were checked for plagiarism and everything, which some people already touched on. And so I don't know, I just put that out there as a suggestion, as something I as a student found rewarding to do, since it was a topic that was interesting to me. It certainly takes some time to find those sources and put together the paper, but just a suggestion for something from a student perspective that I enjoyed in AP Environmental Science and could hopefully work for you if you decide to pursue that.
Thank you. I actually did do at the beginning of the year, they had to do an agri-science fair project because this year they're changing the AP exam. It's really changed a lot, but this year they set it up totally differently to focus on experimental design as one of the areas of focus.
Okay.
So they had to do an agri-science fair project for that. And I had them, do the literature search and all of that. But as far as the test this year, they're only giving them 2 free responses. There's no multiple choice on it. So the kids are gonna have to do in 45 minutes, basically 2 free responses.
That's crazy. Just knowing what those tests were like and how there's, the multiple choice pieces, typically multiple choice and then free response. I guess I just commend you guys as AP instructors for doing what you can to work through that. Because that is a big change, even as students were preparing for a typical test just a month or so ago. So yeah, commend you for the work you're doing to adapt and be flexible.
Okay, is there another topic folks want to bring to the table for input or discussion?
I'll start a new topic here. Since we've got Mikey, Brandon on the call, maybe a quick discussion about student engagement and what kinds of activities do you think our students want to take part in right now? So I'm thinking, like, how am I going to get the best student engagement, or what are my students going to find the most fun right now? If that makes sense.
Well, that is a question that we have been trying to tackle as a state officer team. What do our members want right now? And I think the things that we've found most beneficial are things like a BuzzFeed quiz. We put out a BuzzFeed quiz of like, which Pennsylvania FFA state officer are you most like? And we had about 1,000 people take the quiz in a week, which was pretty cool. I think that students like engaging things and things that they can kind of like use their social media with. So we've used social media nonstop, and I'm not sure like what contact you have with students besides social media, because that's all we have, but it's worked really well to kind of like put things out there and then provide a challenge and then let students take that challenge and run with it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Thanks, Mikey. I have given like short activities this past week. So like, let's review different types of root structures, like go pull some weeds and take a picture of those roots and tell me what type of root structures those were. And those short activities seem to work. I'm just, trying to be different, trying to be more hands-on than just watch this YouTube video and answer these questions, if that makes sense. So good stuff. Thank you.
I think that's good, Ms. Slates. You talked about getting outside to do the root structure thing. Like, I was also going to say social media is super good, but like, I just think that's awesome that, they were challenged to get outside and, try and get some hands-on activities. I would say students, it's so difficult because I guess everybody has different access to resources, and anything submission wise is going to be online. But I would just encourage you, if there are any like hands-on activities like you mentioned, I'd say keep doing them. I think in times like this, students get kind of bored. I mean, as probably all of us do sometimes, just more or less being stuck at home. And so if there is an opportunity to do something hands-on, I say go for it. The one thing that came to mind, it all depends on like what your course is, but I thought about, we did an egg dissection in school when I was a student, and I thought, how cool would that be? Most people would have at least one egg at their house that they could, crack open and then take a look at the anatomy of an egg and just little things like that. Obviously, it all depends on what the content is that you're teaching. That's not applicable for every course, but little things like that, I'd just say I think students would enjoy having the opportunity to do those in times like these.
Cool. Great topic, Brandon. Thanks.
And if I could add on to that a sec, Brandon was talking about those small little activities. They are really good to get students away from the laptop, because right now everything is on the laptop, and anything you can do to get students away while still being productive is going to be really good. I know, like, in times like this, I've gotten so many text messages and emails, but if I get a letter, like, I'm super excited because it's something away from the laptop for once. So definitely try to work on getting them away from the laptop. You're not going to get them away fully, but get them out, get them doing something away from just the internet.
I actually assigned this project this past week. We've been doing the online teaching for 3 weeks now. And last week I gave my kids, it's called 2020 at-home SAE. And I gave them a list of things that were worth certain amounts of points. And they had to, like, raking leaves, pulling weeds, things that they could do outside, and they had to accumulate in the week 50 points worth of activity outside. Now it's not due until midnight tonight, so I have to see how many kids actually do it, but I thought I totally agree with you. Get them away from that screen.
Yeah, that sounds like a great activity. I'll have to look that one up.
I can send it to Bethy, and then she can put it out with the email.
Yeah, that would be a good one. I didn't see that one come
Absolutely.
through. That's a good activity.
Just, you can either email it to me or stick it in the chat box. No problem.
Okay, I have to figure out how to stick it in the chat box. I'm new to all of this.
If it's a website, you can just cut and paste it in.
It's not a website.
You might be able to just drag it, and if it's a file, you might be able to drag it in. If not, just email it to me. It's fine. No problem.
Kelly, how do you evaluate those SAE projects then?
There's a spot that the parents have to sign, like before they even do the activity, the parent has to okay it. And then they have to take a picture of the parent's signature and attach it. They all have Chromebooks because we went to 1-to-1. So they can take a picture with their Chromebook of their parent's signature, saying that they approved it and that they did it. And then it's either, we were told that we have to either do 0.5 or 1 point for each thing that assignment we give, because we're doing pass fail. 3rd and 4th marking periods this year are all pass fail. So we have to keep track of actually if they do it or not. So if they do it and they do it right, then it's 1 point. If they do it and they don't do it completely right, it's 0.5, with the option to redo and actually get the full point.
Do you have them record their journal in AET as an SAE project?
Well, that's my next step. I mean, this was the first week of just trying this and seeing how it goes. My next step next week, I was going to try to see that they would do the same thing, but then with some of my classes. And then they would put it into AET this coming week, yes.
That would be awesome. Then you could just go into the report section and the grading section and just look at how many journal entries they have. Like you could assign them 3 journal entries for the week or whatever, on what they did. And then that could be your grade. That could be awesome and easy.
Well, the only question I had was, how will I get the parent's signature if I do it on AET, because I thought about doing that at first. I thought, well, why don't I just have them do this on AET? But then I didn't know how to get like parental approval, and have the parents kind of monitor it for me. I didn't know how to do that on AET.
They could take a picture of the document and upload it in their portfolio, and kind of attach it to that project. And then as you're grading, you can look at the photos in that grading window, and then and look at the parent signatures that way. You could have all the parent signatures on one page too. So the kid could write the activity, the parent could sign it, the kid could write another activity, the parent could sign it, and then the kids could take pictures of that same document as they're doing that work and uploading it into their portfolio, and they could delete the previous page that they did.
Okay, I'll give that a shot. That sounds like a good idea.
Because then the photo would show up in the AET grading place. Do you know where I'm talking about? Do you know how to get there?
No, I'll have to look at that. I haven't had a chance to look at that.
Oh, let me see if I have that open. I don't, but I can in a second. Hang on.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. I'll be back.
I log out. I'll be back.
Okay.
You don't
Thank
look
you.
like Arnold.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll figure this out. Okay, keep talking, you guys. I'll be back. Oh, there it is.
Anything else to share on there? Okay, do you want to switch to another topic?
So I have something I can bring up.
Awesome.
Okay, so throughout the year, going to different schools and facilitating workshops, I know my team has heard of a lot. Like, it's really cool that you've got that student engaged. Like, I can't do that in the typical daily class that I have. So like, I've really found it interesting to see how a change in pace and a change in like the classroom environment really can engage a student. And it's something that I've always tried to like really push for in my workshops. So as soon as the students come in, they have music playing. Maybe there's like plastic balls on the floor from the previous class, and it may look messy, but I feel like right away it breaks down those barriers of what a typical traditional class will look like. And it kind of opens that student's mind a little bit to the fact that this isn't going to be a normal class. And I think it encourages participation a little more. So I get that this isn't feasible to do every single day as a teacher, but for the current teachers and student teachers, how would you recommend changing that classroom environment and changing that pace to maintain student engagement?
You could have some music playing when you start your Zoom session. Or you could be somewhere else, like instead of being in your house, you know, and with a blank wall behind you or whatever, or like me, a picture of motorcycles behind me. You could be, if you're going to talk about animals, you could be in the barn, or you could be out walking your dog, or out in the garden showing them the weeds that you're pulling or whatever. Is that the kind of stuff you mean?
So I was thinking more so like after Corona has run its course and like we're back in a physical classroom, and especially thinking like, I'm thinking way far ahead, but in terms of me student teaching, I want to keep students engaged, because I know that when we came into the classroom and facilitated workshops, a lot of students were engaged that teachers said typically weren't. And I don't want to hook students at the start and then kind of lose them as the semester goes on. So like, what little tips and tricks do you guys have in mind that I can do to like break down traditional classroom barriers and kind of keep students engaged?
Well, first, I think your energy will get them engaged. But when I was student teaching, it depends on the class too. Like, student teaching is also different because you come in halfway through after a teacher already sort of sets the tone of the classroom, and like they tell you, oh, it's your classroom now, but it's not really. I mean, it is, but they always know that how their other teacher sort of did things and continue that sort of thing. But one thing that I did is I tried to bring in some games, like Kahoot. They love Kahoot. Like the one day in my animal science class, I had a 60 question Kahoot that took almost the whole class, but they loved it. And the way that I used it, I was going to teach a unit on animal reproduction, and I was the young female teacher who all these boys who worked at dairy farms thought I didn't know anything. So I was like, all right, let's test if you know anything. Let's do this Kahoot. And then when they didn't get a perfect score on the Kahoot, or when they realized I answered some questions that they didn't get, then they realized, maybe I don't know everything and I can actually learn something. So I did that at the very end, so I didn't really get to practice this again in the classroom, but using a Kahoot as a game for the beginning of a unit, if you have kids that are like know-it-alls or think they know everything, and then you can sort of trick them and be like, hey, you don't actually know everything, we can actually learn stuff together. But you can also do it in a way that you want to gain their input, because the more say that they have, the more interest they have in the topic too. So like when I was teaching 8th grade intro to ag, and I basically had free reign to teach whatever I wanted to teach on. So for the first day of class, when I learned their names, I had them each fill out like a note card, and then I had on there, what do you know about agriculture? What do you want to know? And then I would try and see what, as a collective group, they want to learn, because if they're interested in it, they're going to be more ready to pay attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
I've had 5 student teachers in my tenure, and I have to tell you that they were all different and they all did things differently. But the big thing was that my kids were happy to have someone else. So I think you're going to be okay, with whatever you do. You're going to be able to engage them right away, because you're going to student teach in the spring, correct?
I'm assuming, but that's a couple years down the road. I'm just really thinking real far in advance, because I thought it was pretty interesting, like how a change of pace can engage a student.
Oh, absolutely. This is definitely a change of pace as far as the online teaching.
Okay, Carol messaged me so that she's ready to go. Are you to share her screen? Are you ready, Carol? You're muted.
There we are. I was adding
Carol's muted? Carol's muted? I find that hard to believe.
If only Mike could figure that out. Okay, so I'm in AET, and I'm in this student's account. His name is Cooper. That's my new grandson, by the way, just so you know. So I don't want to be in Cooper's account anymore, in the student account. I want to be in the chapter account. So I'm going to go to chapter account, and now I'm in as a teacher. So I'm going to go to the reports tab. Kelly, this is how you grade these. So I'm going to go to the reports tab, and I'm going to go to S5, SAE grading report, S5. So when I go to S5, then this opens up, and I see Cooper Fay in here. Now, the start date is February 17th, 2022 today. So I might want to change the beginning date, or this filter date, and I'm going to put 2019 there. And you're going to see how that changes, because all of these entries, all of these project entries were done in the time frame between February 17th, 19, and April, today, April 18th. So then I can see the type of project. So if I want to go entrepreneurship, which projects are entrepreneurship, which projects are placement, or do I want to see all of them? And then you can go, and here's the pathways that are in AET. And I did get that email from Killian, and I will respond back to her. And if you want to even filter it down further, you can filter it by all of these options. By classes, by teachers, by, there's just all kinds of options there for filtering. So if we take a look at, Mr. Cooper has 2 photos that are from his project at Jones Feed Store. It's placement, it's beef, probably that's not very appropriate because I just kind of stuck it in there. But here are the 2 photos that he uploaded. And so here's one that's, you know, it's a bird, whatever. These are just 2 completely random pictures that I had. But the key, Kelly, is those photos will only show up in the grading if the kids have written a caption. Okay?
Okay, so can you go back a screen?
You bet. Going back. Here we are.
Okay, show me again how you got there.
Okay, so I'm going to go back all the way to, here I am at, I'm in as the teacher now. Okay,
Okay.
wait, back up. And yeah, my internet's a little slow today. Is anybody else having that issue?
Well, that's why I'm asking you to do it again because mine keeps freezing.
Okay, so I'm in as the teacher. I'm in the teacher's account. And I go to the reports tab. And then I go to S5, SAE grading report.
Okay.
And then I look, and here is the name of the student, Cooper, and his project is Jones Feed Store. So for your kids, it would be 2020 at Home SAE would be the name of their project. So you could filter for that project if you wanted to. You might have them make that a foundational project so that it's really easy to filter for.
Okay.
And then you can see that Cooper has 2 photos uploaded in that project.
Okay.
And when I click on the number 2, here are my 2 completely random pictures. I just quickly pulled these out of all the pictures I had, but they will only show up in that window if they have a caption.
Okay.
If they don't have a caption, they won't appear in that window.
Okay.
And this caption, this is a bird, is not a good caption. You could say, having whatever kind of flower, those are coneflowers. Having coneflowers in your garden is very helpful and attracts whatever kind of bird that is. I don't know. That was actually a puzzle we made.
Okay. Probably not a bird on the East Coast, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's maybe an oriole. I'm not sure.
Okay. I can't tell. I'm on my phone.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. So that's one way that you can grade, and you can also see. Now, if I wanted to go into these kids' AET account, like here is Carol Fay as a student. If I click on that, that will take me into her AET account.
Okay.
And then you can see all of the components of their projects in this window, which is pretty cool.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Mary, that's one way that you could go in if you have that student's account information. Do you have the school's password into AET?
Yeah, I just got it. Well, I had it when I was at the school because I had like a school laptop, and then I got that taken away. So I just got the new username and password for my laptop to log in. So I'm gonna check it out. And Mr. Deisher just texted me that I'm gonna meet with her on Tuesday. So I'll be sure to look over that stuff before I can visit on Tuesday through Zoom.
Very good. Very good.
Okay, folks, great discussion going on. Lots of good stuff being shared. Up for a next topic.
I just have a question. So I was teaching a biotech unit, and I'm teaching a food science unit and an ag business classes. And I'm wondering what you're doing to bring in the current event topic of coronavirus and sort of the supply chain and how that's really affecting ag everywhere within there. And I'm trying to figure out what's the fine line between not trying to stress out students, but also trying to get them to understand what's going on. Sort of, yeah.
I did a seminar with my kids. I provided them with links of articles that I wanted them to read. And then I asked them for a reflection on those articles and I brought it back home to them by asking them to reflect on how this has changed, well, first of all, how it's affected agriculture, and how they think it may affect their lives linking to agriculture.
So in high school, my teacher did a lot of web quests with us, and a lot of times she did web quests on things like GMOs and like controversial things. But I think it would be cool to have a web quest on Corona, and then like make students go to the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the CDC, because there's a lot of information floating around about Corona, and it's a bunch of hearsay. One thing starts on social media and then automatically it becomes like a true fact. So I think it'd be cool to like honestly get the true facts from like the CDC and the Department of Health, and then as it was previously brought up, like tie that back into agriculture. Like how do they think it would affect them, and how do they think it's going to affect the industry? But I think it's important to make sure students know the right information and they know the facts. And I think that the CDC and the Department of Health does a really good job at conveying this information without trying to scare people. And I feel like that's not what a lot of people's intentions are out there. So I think that could be really good.
Cool, those are good ideas, thanks.
I did something similar. I had the students go, and I actually made them go and look up their own articles. And at first it was kind of cool, but then, you know, once you have students looking up all these different articles, you did a lot of very opinionated things and some things that aren't normally factual. So once I realized that, I gave them another task of figuring out, you know, they had to answer a question of what they thought I'm trying to think of the word I used, what the motive was of that article. And then they had to compare it to what they have noticed has changed. So, you know, if they've been going to the grocery store with their parents or whatnot, you know, what changes have they noticed since this all happened? You know, what were those changes? And they had to record it. And then they also had to then compare it to what does the rest of the country look like? You know, how is that looking like here in Crawford County? And kind of make that connection and compare that to the rest of the nation. So that's what I did. And there was a lot of participation in the discussion board, and it seemed like they enjoyed it. So yeah.
Okay, we have about 15 minutes left, which is still lots of time for good discussion. Any other items to discuss, ask questions, and share about?
I don't really have a new item, but I guess I just want to put it out there that if any of you have suggestions or ways that we as a state officer team can help, we would love to help in any way that we can. We miss those in-person interactions with members. That's kind of what we live for. And hey, we're doing what we can, trying to stay engaged on social media, and, the virtual SOCs calls have been great, preparing state officer candidates. So we're doing what we can, and we are blessed to be able to connect virtually. But if there are any suggestions or, ways that you feel that we could be better interacting or helping out your students, please feel free to let us know. We welcome those.
How did your Netflix party? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
The Netflix party went well. We had people, some from Pennsylvania, but some outside of the state as well join. And so it's good if you've never done a Netflix party. It's nice. You can watch the movie, but then there's a built-in chat feature as well, so you can have good conversation while the movie is playing. So got to meet some new people. We had 2 of the national officers join, which was super cool. We sent an invite to them, so 2 of them joined. Mikey, I don't know. Do you have anything you want to add? That was good.
Not really. I mean, it was a fun time all around.
Mm-hmm. And the virtual socks calls have gone well. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, have you guys been able to join into, like, zoom into anybody's like FFA meetings and things like that, or classes?
Yeah, that's a good idea or suggestion. We have not. What we are starting to get requests for are some virtual banquets, or some schools are doing like a virtual banquet week. And so that's kind of exciting. I know I have a video I'll be filming coming up for a banquet that's coming up. So just need to see people adapting and, hey, you know, doing what we can with the situation to stay involved and still connect with students.
I was thinking about, like, that would be kind of cool for teachers that are struggling, you know, like even on a Friday, you know, like today's our potluck day. Maybe some teachers are at all different stages of the game. I know some are having regular classes online, just like normal. And I thought, oh, that might be cool to keep up interaction, as have a guest appearance, or you know, that might be fun. But my son has a guest reader or mystery reader that comes to his Zoom session. You guys could be like the mystery FFA officer coming in.
Cool.
That would be cool. Thank you for the suggestion.
So I'll throw out a question to everyone. Michael and Brandon and their teammates are currently trying to figure out what a virtual quote unquote convention looks like. Knowing that we're probably not going to call it a convention, trying to come up with what do we call it, what's it look like, what's it entail. And I think some of us are really struggling on what should we offer, rather than just having a talking head that kind of spits out all the awards or whatever, knowing that most of it's going to be pre-recorded. We're thinking about sending out some kind of a survey to teachers and to students, for that matter, on what they would like to see. New stuff, like things that we normally would not do in person in the Bryce Jordan Center. So if you have any thoughts of things that Michael and Brandon and their teammates could do, be sure and share those with us. Or if you have thoughts today, we'll take them today. But just really trying to come up with some new stuff that makes people tune in and also makes them go, wow, that was pretty cool. So
I think for a while our team was so stuck on like what we did in the past, and we had a Zoom call with Mr. B. I can never pronounce. Is it Lonnie or Loney?
Jean Loney.
Okay, so Miss Loney, and she lives in Texas now, but she was giving us some good input on convention, and we were asking her questions. And one of the things she said was, the good news is like, you're not going to do this wrong, because we've never done it like this before. And she pointed out that like, we don't have to do what we did in the past. Like, we can change things completely. So I think it's kind of the mindset that we're going. And we wanted to do this survey because she said it's awesome to have students like be able to plant that seed and like see it grow and like come to fruition. So we kind of want input from everybody, like what is important to them in a convention and like what do they want to see. So that was just to provide some more context on the survey that Mr. B was talking about.
Ms. Fay, I see your suggestion there about the video clips of some business and industry tours. Thank you for that suggestion. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. If you reached out to some of those businesses and did like live tours, or had some of those people, you know, here's what we're doing here, or here's what we're doing now, or, you know, tours like that, and have maybe like themes of different topics, that could be really cool.
So, any other suggestions? We are winding down on time here, but I don't want to cut anything short. So if there's any other questions, suggestions, things to share, I can also turn off the recording too at this time if you wish. Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording.